In the grand scheme of this series, which spanned 3 seasons, the first episode, What If Captain Carter Were the First Avenger, stands out. As the opening episode of the What If series, it set the tone for what was to come in a show that, despite its promising concept, largely faltered in terms of creativity, originality, and lasting impact. Looking back after the conclusion of the series, What If Captain Carter Were the First Avenger can be seen as the first glimpse into the unfulfilled potential of the show and an early warning sign that, rather than pushing the boundaries of possibility, What If often resorted to cheap gimmicks and recycled plots. By focusing on an alternate history where Peggy Carter takes the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers, the episode inadvertently highlighted many of the series' failings and, in retrospect, set the stage for an underwhelming exploration of alternate timelines that left me wishing for more daring and unique stories.
You're an agent. You're not qualified for field duty.
Then you better promote me. Captain has a nice ring to it.
Okay, let's hear it for Captain Carter!
At its core, this episode does not offer anything original. The story is essentially a gender-swapped version of Captain America: The First Avenger, with Peggy Carter as the super soldier tasked with fighting Hydra during World War II. The problem here is not that Captain America is portrayed as a woman, but that the episode does not actually do much with this change. The plot follows almost exactly the same trajectory as the original film, only with Peggy Carter now at the center. There is no significant divergence or exploration of how Peggy's leadership would have shaped the war differently, or how her presence might have altered other key aspects of the MCU. Instead of creating a truly unique story, this episode feels like a simple reskin of a familiar story, offering little in the way of genuine creative innovation. The show's potential for exploring alternate histories and branching timelines seemed infinite, yet the first episode demonstrated a lack of ambition.
Agent Carter, what are you doing?
This is our only chance. Now!
3, 2, 1.
Did it work?
And then some. You won't be needing those hills anymore.
We did it.
Yeah. I think we did it.
Are you the 107th? I'm here for Sergeant Barnes.
Who are you supposed to be?
Is there anybody else? I'm looking for a Sergeant James Barnes.
There's a nice selection. I expected something more imaginative, like exploring what would have happened had the other half of the population survived the snap in Avengers: Infinity War. Such an episode could have shown us how the other Avengers would have handled the snap. Instead, we get episodes like, What If Darcy Lewis Had Sex with a Duck? This episode sets the tone for the entire series by introducing Peggy Carter as a protagonist who will reappear in subsequent episodes. However, as the show progresses, it becomes apparent that her presence is a symptom of the series' creative stagnation rather than a beacon of innovation. Rather than using What If as a platform to explore truly unconventional scenarios, the show repeatedly falls back on predictable outcomes, many of which revolve around familiar characters and narratives. The over-reliance on Peggy Carter's Captain America, who becomes the central figure of several episodes, further reflects this creative monotony.
Her one choice gave birth to a whole new history and gave the multiverse a new hero.
The idea of what if Peggy Carter became Captain America was interesting for a brief moment, but the idea is stretched too thin throughout the series. The concept of alternate timelines is one of the most exciting aspects of the MCU, yet What If often fails to capitalize on it. Instead of introducing truly fascinating episodes like a world where Steve Rogers was never frozen, the series instead fell into the trap of revisiting safe, formulaic stories with minor variations. This episode serves as a prime example of how the series squandered its potential for innovation by choosing easy, unoriginal variations of well-known stories. For instance, the episode could have explored what would happen if the war had been fought under Peggy's command, but instead, the episode remains almost entirely focused on repeating the plot of the original Captain America film, just with a female lead. By the end of What If, after 3 seasons, the show had drowned in its own lack of creativity.
It's a prism of endless possibility, creating alternate worlds from the ones you know.
From Captain Carter to Agatha in Hollywood to a duck getting wet, What If often chose easy and inconsequential changes to well-known stories, rather than pushing the boundaries of imagination. In hindsight, this episode encapsulates everything that went wrong with the series. It failed to deliver on the promise of the premise, providing fresh, exciting, and unexpected takes on the MCU, and instead leaned on the crutch of familiar stories, slightly altered. It is not a story that radically shifts our understanding of the MCU, nor does it leave us with the sense that anything truly remarkable has happened in an alternate timeline. In fact, it sets a worrying precedent for the rest of the series, as the formulaic and unimaginative nature of this episode would be repeated throughout this show's run. Ultimately, What If missed the chance to truly push the envelope, and What If Captain Carter were the first Avenger is the perfect encapsulation of its wasted potential.